his lack of athleticism, despite his NFL pedigree and name and production at Oklahoma.
He's gonna play right tackle the way his dad did for the Ravens. That's a beautiful pick.
I did like the Lamar Jackson pick. We talked about that last week. I don't know what Anthony Everett is. I don't really know what
corner.
I don't really know what any Alabama corner is, to be honest.
That's actually a fair point.
Jalil Scott and Jordan Lansley. I mean, they're cool, but they don't.
Both those guys.
They're cool, but they don't do a lot for me.
I mean, think about it. Jalil
like
Scott's
solid.
6'4".
They're gonna be. That's what I'm saying.
He's a possession receiver. He's big bodied. They need that influx of receiver talent.
They're like boomer bust.
No, I think Scott has better ball skills. Lashley really only ran a 4.5. He might be whatever.
So you disagree with me that they're losers? You don't think they're losers?
No, I think they won more than they lost in this draft. I think they could still be considered losers because they took a tight end in Mark Andrews who can't block and was overrated as hell at Oklahoma. But like they'll definitely be losers, depending on how they handle the transition from Joe Flacco to Lamar. So like, I don't disagree that they lost this draft, but there are some picks that were kind of questionable. But I think they really just added for depth, just to try to get the bottom of their roster better.
Who's your loser in the draft?
I've waited a week for this. The Oakland Raiders are the biggest.
Really? You couldn't have waited because you knew I was going to say the same one too? You couldn't have given one before then?
Oh, I got like two more, but no, cool, totally. I'll back up.
So we can both equally shit on the Raiders?
Yeah, we'll save it. I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns. I got two, but I'm going to go Cleveland first. Here's why. Baker Mayfield, they said like, they like this swagger. I'm like, so this just dispels the notion that it's okay to be a cocky white quarterback who went to a blue blood college like Oklahoma, played in an offense that makes your numbers look gaudy and everything else, and really just comes down to intangibles. Like that's why you picked him. I mean, I'm pretty sure Josh Rosen has more swagger than Baker Mayfield in terms of on the field, which is what you want. Like Baker Mayfield just talks a lot of trash. I think they botched that first pick, and honestly, I think they botched it with Denzel Ward. Like, it's cool to take him, but I think like you don't put your franchise on a guy who's barely 6 feet tall. I just don't agree with it. I like what they did with Nick Chubb. I don't like that Jeff Thomas pick out of Miami. I think there was better players on the board that they could have got. But
I like Antonio Callaway, but I don't like him there. I don't think that was a good fit.
I thought he wasn't going to get drafted because of his stuff.
Yeah.
But for a fourth-round pick, if Josh Gordon can be reformed,
I think value-wise, he's a good fourth-round pick. But I'm talking about like as far as culture, I don't know if that's the place I would want him to be.
Right
on top
now,
of the fact that they already have
Josh Gordon
and Jarvis Landry, and don't they have another receiver there too? Somebody else?
Yeah, I can't remember his name though. They have like Ricardo Lewis. They have like a handful of receivers in Cleveland, low key, because they took like 4 receivers last year. So, I don't really like that. Like for a team like Cleveland, you just take best available everywhere you can get it, and I think they didn't always do that. That's why I still think they lost this draft. I mean, they did good. They got Austin Corbett, that guard who I guess is going to play tackle for them, was really athletic. They already had Joe Patonio. They signed Chris Hubbard from the Steelers, which was huge. He'll come in and play right tackle. They got guys, but I think you really screwed yourself over when you didn't. And it was a good point. I think Charlie Casserly or somebody else made it. They said, you don't miss out on getting a Bradley Chubb. You have 2 top-flight A1 pass rushers for the first 5 years of their career. Think about that. And I was like, that's kind of true. Myles Garrett on one side, Chubb on the other, and you have Emmanuel Ogbay, who's good, but they could possibly use him as trade bait, or at least he'll be a good player coming off the bench in rotation because they're running a 4-3. But I think they really messed off the energy. When you have a Tyrod Taylor and you think Baker Mayfield's going to beat him out, I just don't see that happening. I'd rather have Darnold or Rosen if that's the case.
All right, man. We've already talked about the Browns way too much. We talked about them all last week. So I'm going to give you another loser. It's also in the top 10. The Indianapolis Colts. I like the only pick that I really like from them is number 6, Quentin Nelson. He is the best player available. But outside of that, they really needed some help scoring. They needed some more offensive line help. They needed some help at running back. They needed some help at receiver. And they didn't get any of it. I see that they're trying to revamp their team and kind of build around the trenches. They took a bunch of guards. They took a bunch of defensive ends. But I'm not sold on it. I think they're losers. I think they could have did better.
Okay.
Give me another one before we bullshit on the Raiders.
I'm going to go the New Orleans Saints.
Chiefs? Oh.
Nah. Chiefs are really just fortifying their defense. I think
the Chiefs are a loser, bro. The Chiefs are a loser.
They did a lot in the offseason, bro.
Bro, you took a guard at defense. You took a defensive tackle converted to a guard.
That's Khalil McKenzie. That was gamesmanship. They're probably going to cut him on the last day or trade him to Oakland for like a future 7th-round pick.
I mean, I do like what they did considering the picks they had. Like, they got some solid guys, but...
They got Armani Watts out of Texas A&M. They needed safety depth because Lord knows they don't have it outside of Eric Berry.
But when you compare it to what the Chargers, and we didn't even talk about the Broncos are definitely a winner. You got Sutton and Bradley Chubb.
And Royce Freeman.
Those are your 3 biggest needs, and you got great value.
And then you got the tight end out of Wisconsin. Like, they shored up everything. Because, I mean, the Giants are obvious winners. But
yeah, back to the Saints.
Back to the Saints being losers. You don't trade away a future first-round pick for a guy who is really raw and underdeveloped. I think you could have waited. I think he would have fell to them. And if he didn't fall, they could have got Harold Landry. And the whole knock on Harold Landry, I guess, was like, oh, well, he had a bad senior year. I was like, man, he's hurt. He was hurt. And they say he doesn't have an array of pass rushing moves. Well, he had 16 and a half sacks.
Traquan Smith was a reach.
He was definitely a reach. He's a good receiver, but he was definitely a reach. I
think I like Will Clapp, their last pick at 245. I mean, LSU kid, you got nothing to lose there. Might as well.
As far as D lineman goes, like if you're gonna pick someone, I think they definitely made a mistake. I think that sets the tone for the whole draft. Everybody else could be a hit, but if Davenport's a bust, you don't have a first-round pick next year. And you look mad stupid now. Like, that's crazy.
Well, wait. Real quick, what school
and Rick Leonard, by the way,
tangent. What school is the Steelers' backup QB from? Landry? Landry's still their backup,
Landry
right?
Jones went to Oklahoma, by the way.
Oh, okay. I thought he went to Oklahoma State. I was like, they really took another Oklahoma State?
I mean,
I wouldn't put it past them.
Okay, I have 2 honorable mentions. How many honorable mentions do you have?
For losers?
For winners and losers. But I'm just going to say honorable mentions for winners because losers don't get honorable mentions. And I'm about to kill their 4th-round pick, the Saints. But do you think of 2...
you already talked about the Saints.
No, I'm not done yet because I just realized that their 4th-round pick was a tackle out of Florida State. And you know my stance on Florida State tackles. You might as well just hit the gunshots now. We need better gunshots. That's an air gun. I'm upset. I hate to say it, not an AR-15, but I got a MAC-10 I'm ready to download. But anyway, don't trust Florida State offensive linemen. Yeah, Thor hitting you with a thunderclap. I don't trust Florida State offensive tackles. So this is already a bad pick. He ain't going to be much. Waste of a 4th-round pick. Traquan in the 3rd round, I think Harrison Phillips was still on the board. Like, there was other players on the board. I think they really screwed the pooch on that one. Natrell Jamerson was a solid pick. They made up there. Cameron Moore, 6th round pick. He might be a good backup cornerback. They need corner help. Boston Scott, I think, was really good out of Louisiana Tech. Fast and all that. But, yeah. Other than that, I still say the Saints lost. Solely off their 1st round pick, they reached for Traquan, and they got a Florida State offensive tackle in the 4th round. That's a L for their draft.
All right, are there any other L's you want to dish out for this 2018 NFL draft before we talk about the Raiders?
Nah, man, that's about it.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think everybody else was pretty much average.
Everybody else was smart. There's 3 people who didn't study for the test.
I think the biggest thing, right, between the difference between being a loser and being average is like you know when to take your spots, right? You got to see the draft in a bigger picture as far as like, yes, there's some picks where you're gonna reach and you're gonna take a chance because you really like those players and you think they really fit into your scheme. But there's some picks that just make no damn sense,
like common sense picks that.
Like the Oakland Raiders taking Brandon Parker and as the 1st pick in the 3rd round and trading up to get that 1st pick in the 3rd round to take a tackle out of
North Carolina A&T, a black school. Yeah, we know. Lesser competition.
Now, I understand that the offensive tackle class was not that deep.
Definitely. So why the hell?
And we saw that across the board throughout the whole NFL draft. Players got reached on, especially the athletic tackles. Like a lot of the tackles that actually have production and starting time, their knock was athleticism. So those are the guys like the Jerron Christians and the O'Neills and the NC State player we're talking about, like
Richardson.
Yeah, those players that went in the 3rd through 5th round, like the end of the 3rd through like the 6th round. But then you had guys like Brandon Parker who are athletic, who do have size, but they don't have the top level production, who really got reached on. And that's part of the reason why I think the Raiders take an L in this year's draft class. On top of the fact that, well, Colton Miller and Brandon Parker are basically the same prospect.
Hot tag.
All right, go ahead.
You skipped a lot of stuff. They traded down. Okay, what's the Raiders' biggest need, if we're being honest, outside of tackle? Going into this draft, what was their biggest need? Who was everybody mocking?
Linebacker.
Either Roquan or
Which, by the way, I've been on record saying that they were never going to take either of those players.
By the way, yeah,
everyone was for some reason.
It was too smart. It was too smart. Like it's the thing.
Not just that, but Reggie McKenzie, he was a linebacker. He thinks he can find linebackers late in the draft.
But he wasn't even a good linebacker.
Gunther thinks he can find linebackers late in the draft. The highest linebacker he ever had in Cincinnati was Ray Mountluga, which he was a 2nd round pick.
Odell Thurman was a 1st round pick. But that was, by the way, that was a correction and retraction from last week. I said Odell Thurman when I really meant to say Rudy Johnson because we were talking about Bengals running backs. But anyway, what makes no sense to me is you pass on Derwin James, you pass on Tremont Edmonds, but you trade back 5 spots into the 15th spot, and you don't even get a 2nd round pick from the Cardinals.
Well, wait.
Both their thirds.
Wait. They still could have got both of those players, even not 15. So they passed on them twice.
And then you traded out of your 2nd round. Like, had you actually got, let's say, the Cardinals' 2nd round pick, you could have got a Christian Kirk, who, guess what, went to Arizona. Josh Rosen has a quarterback now, wide receiver to throw to now. All they gave it was a 3rd round and a 5th round pick, and it's like they traded the Cardinals' 3rd round pick to get Martavis Bryant, which is cool. I mean, people say there's there's red flags. He might smoke weed and get kicked out the league forever again. But I'm gonna bank on the fact that he wants to actually be a pro. So let's say we'll call that one even. You stupidly pass on a guy in Edmonds who, again, 6'5", 250, runs a 4.5,